Good morning, everybody. Clint Remington, Operations Section Chief Trainee with Southwest Team 2. We'll talk about what we saw yesterday, what folks were working on, and then the plan for today's shift. So kind of to start out, we're seeing some pretty tough fire conditions. The weather, we've had really low relative humidity and higher temperatures. So what that kind of is betting against us on is the relative humidity. When we get down into single digits, we talk about that quite a bit. So, the less humid that the air is, the more conducive it is to those fine fuels, kind of our 1 hour grass fuels. And that can create some pretty significant fire behavior, allows the fire to move a lot more rapidly. So those humidities during the day, we're getting down into 8-9%, which make it pretty tough on the guys to try to keep up with fire. So we are dealing with that, and then we talk about recovery at night. So in the Southwest, we typically bang a lot on the grass fires. When we get into that 20-30%, normally that'll really slow our fires down. More moisture in the air sticking to that grass to slow fire down, and it's the same here. When we're getting into that below 20% range, that's pretty poor recovery, which means fire can burn actively throughout the night. So we kind of have that stacked against us for the next couple days. The terrain, local folks will know it's pretty tough to get in and out in a lot of this country, and especially when we're dealing with the smoke conditions we've had. Usually we rely pretty heavily on aircraft for intelligence to tell us, hey, the fire's here, talking to the guys on the ground, you might want to bounce over to this side. But we haven't been able to do that. Lots of bucket drops, retardant, things like that. When it's so smoked out, the pilot's comfortability, it's pretty tough to get it in and get it exactly where they need it when they can't see. So we're adapting. We're using a lot of UASs, unmanned aerial supervision, drones, or with infrared cameras, or talking directly to the crews on the ground, giving them updates as they need. So a lot of reconnaissance there. So that's been a big help. And we can also use those for strategic firing. And when I talk about strategic firing, what I'm talking about is removing the fuels from point A to point B. So when we talk about an indirect piece of line, and so we can talk about it up here, I'll get started in branch 1. So last night they did start way up here above the Redwood Mountain Grove, burned about a mile to the west. So the intent there is to slowly start burning. And when I talk about strategic firing, it's not just hurry up and put fire down and start moving and get it done. We are trying to take it very, very slow, strategically putting fire in points along the Sherman Highway and our Dozer Line Road hand lines where it makes sense to give us more of a catcher's mitt is what we call it, but a black line that we're slowly taking away the fuels ahead of the fire. So when the main fire comes up and hits that, it's got nowhere else to go. If we don't do that and we don't get any fire out ahead of anything, we'll have free roaming fire that can just basically move unchecked. So that's where we pick points ahead, where we feel good tactically that we can hold the fire on our side, and we can keep it on the right side of the road or the trail and just slowly start removing those fuels ahead of it so that when the main fire catches it's got nowhere to go, and we've sealed it off. So a couple things, I know we've had questions on that. So starting out today in branch 1, last night, they did initiate some firing operations. We did have that spot fire we talked about a couple days ago across the North Fork. That continued to grow yesterday. That was, the smoke everybody was seeing in the column coming up. So fairly active across the river last night. And as you can see, it did head over towards that Esham Point and then coming around. So folks were in there last night doing some burning to keep it on the right side of the road. Our objectives really haven't changed. We're trying to keep the fire from moving any further west from our lines here. So what we don't want is for it to get into Heartland, Wilsonia, Cedar Grove. So you're going to see some additional structure protection specialist type stuff, strike teams of engines. We'll have those folks out there in a couple communities to make sure that they're doing due diligence, setting up structure protection plans, having additional engines in there, in case we need to do anything with it. But starting to expand out a little bit, as fire behaviors increase in here. So intent and objective today for the folks on the ground, still try their best to keep fire east of our holding features here. A lot of these dozer lines, hand lines, little check line roads to just give us some options to hang fire up as it continues to move north. At the same time, we'll be easing fire slowly down into this Redwood Mountain Grove, just so we're not running head fire into anything. A nice slow burn to start getting depth. That'll be folks on the ground, hotshot crews, starting to conduct those operations, and where needed and feasible, we'll use the UAS, the drone, to work on the PSD mission there to just get to where some of the crews can't to get fire established out ahead. So we'll have that operation going on in Branch 1 today. Over in Division Sierra, they will start looking at bringing fire tied off to what they're doing over on the Union side. They will start working fire down the General's Highway, slowly but surely, getting it around with the intent in the next couple days to get it down to this Papa Sierra break. So keeping fire on this side of the highway nice and slow, trying to prevent any spot fires from coming across and getting established. So it's hard to picture, but really what we're shooting for is making sure we do a good job in the giant sequoias and the redwood grove. We'll be working with resource advisors from the local park. They've prescribed burning there multiple times, so they'll kind of give us the guidance and be right at our hip telling us, how things need to go. But keeping fire within this section here. Coming around into Division Papa, yesterday those guys, they started bringing fire up the General Sherman's Highway to that Dorse Creek area. The intent there was this fire was moving around a little bit, so they wanted to get out ahead of it, and they hung it up there last night. They'll continue to evaluate conditions and see if they need to move any further north as these folks are coming south. So a little bit of firing happening in there. Our containment line is still very valid and solid east of the highway, and they're still looking for opportunities to try to get this checked up in here direct. So folks will be in Division Papa, very busy today. Coming around into Division Lima Gulf, that's been our quiet spot the last few days. They are still in Lodgepole, looking at Wolverton, putting some contingency lines in, but all of this is looking pretty good. So coming down in the Giant Forest Grove, still working with resource advisors there. Haven't really had any fire movement or anything of significance in the Giant Forest Grove. Feel good about where we're at with the protection of the sequoias and the structure protection that's happening there. So feel good about that. Coming around into Middle Fork, the Middle Fork drainage here of the Kiowa. So this was very active yesterday out south of Castle Creek Grove. You can see the growth we had if you had yesterday's map up. This piece here moved around yesterday. So that was also kind of one of our big smoke producers, just cleaning out some bowls and fire moving around in there. So we'll continue to keep eyes on that. Very smoked in yesterday on a big chunk of the fire, but especially over in this, visibility. UAS couldn't even hardly get low enough to really tell us where things were at, but we can use the IR flights and satellite, and that's where they're getting a lot of this fire perimeter from, so it's accurate. Coming down into Mineral King, Division Charlie, still have folks committed on Mineral King Road. We sent an additional hotshot crew in there yesterday, a couple more engines and some heavy equipment. Every day they are finding any last thing they can do to touch this Mineral King Road up and make that as solid a holding feature as we can. Fire's continuing to slowly back towards the road, that mile marker 14-15, where they're still kind of playing catch as things come down to the hill. But fire's not moving very rapidly or significantly. It's just kind of slowly backing here and there in different isolated pockets and spots. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that and that redwood drainage there. So still have folks checking out Mineral King east of the fire as well. So feeling pretty good about all of Mineral King for right now. Coming around west into Division Alpha, a little bit of activity up above drop point 33 here yesterday, that Oriole Lake country. So we'll have folks in there today checking it out, seeing if there's anything they can do to go direct and kind of tie this containment we've got here over and extend it out. So that'll be an operation today as well. Division Alpha is going to use some UAS unmanned drone to get in here and just kind of check some of this country where the crews can't get into direct, to just see if there's any pockets of heat there, anything that we need to address with aircraft and folks on the ground. So busy day down in Mineral King as well. Over into Three Rivers, we've been there since this team's been here. The previous team spent a lot of focus in there. So done pretty much everything that needs to happen in community of Three Rivers to make that, leave that in good shape. So we feel very good about the community of Three Rivers currently. There was some activity kind of up above the headquarters there, so we'll have folks in there today keeping an eye on that and taking action where needed. So coming around into Division X-Ray and Zulu, there was some activity up in here last night, kind of in this pocket just east of our dozer line. So they'll continue to take a look at that. The intent there is to try to make sure that this dozer line on the trail into the North Fork, we're keeping that pretty solid and in good shape. So they'll be in there evaluating whether we need to do some strategic burning to keep even with any fire movement in here, and then try to wrap this, or if it makes more sense to go direct and just try to check pockets up. So they'll keep an eye on that today as well. But yeah, the big issues we're working with is this stuff out to the north, making sure we're getting some structure protection in Wilsonia, Heartland, evaluating the burning conditions, taking it nice and slow, and making sure we're really doing a good job in the Redwood Mountain Grove with the locals. So it'll be a busy day. It has been a couple busy days with the weather, the terrain, topography, but folks are still very engaged, doing a good job. We're getting some additional resources, hotshot crews, engines, things like that in to kind of start beefing up the organization a little bit as we expand. So I appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for all the support, and have a great day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.